you want to take it from here and?
Yeah. Why don't we just call it? And just kind of start rolling. I'll just start talking. And so, first of all, I mean, this is the first of its kind here. Kind of moving into new territory. So this is just a huge learning curve for all of us on how to do this. You know, I'm used to being in the forge, helping a demonstrator. So this is I really have to rely on Miguel, Greg, Paul, Victoria, all of that to make this work. So this is pretty cool. And Asprey. So so first of all, I want to I have my list here. Thank the people that are sponsoring this design series. And so Mark Asprey, Josh Buellert, and myself came together and are sponsoring this 4-piece series. So what's really cool is all of the registration money goes into the jar, into the cookie jar. So that's really pretty cool. So I'm really proud that we did that, and hopefully we can keep going with that. So I want to talk about Victoria for just a second here, is where I met Victoria. I met her in Delaware at an Urbana conference in 1952. No one even joked at that one. Okay, you did. So, and you were giving out free hugs, and I'm not one to, turn one of those down. So that's how we met. And
that's right. And you're demonstrating with Brett.
Yeah. And we've done a lot. I mean, she's gone to Weaverville. She was at the Hollister Western States. She was a demonstrator at Warren Camp. She participated in Placerville, Grass Valley. I mean, we went to Florida to work with Claudio. And we did, I was on her Blacksmith Academy. And we might go to Stia. We might make a team and go to Italy. We'll cross our fingers on that, but that would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
I've personally done a lot with Victoria, and so has our little group or team or whatever. But so I thought this model was perfect for design, because I think design is where we tend to struggle the most. And, the concepts of designs they're huge. And they're personal. And you have to make them fit for a client or a job. So getting some background on even art history, knowing what Gothic is and what Renaissance is, and we're at a Baroque or classical, or it all helps. So the learning just never stops. But that's what's pretty cool. So I'm going to hand it off to Miss Victoria, and she's going to talk about things that she has designed and how she goes around about it. So please welcome Miss Victoria. And I see that we are all muted, I guess, or most of us are. And I see a chat here.
So Dennis, can you remind everyone that when they want to ask a question, to chat that question to either Greg or myself? And so this is Miguel or Greg, please.
Yeah. So when you have a question, just throw your little chat to Greg, Hudgins, or Miguel, And what they're going to do is they're going to send it to me, and then I'll, when Victoria has a little pause, I'll just chime in and ask the question. Or what we might be able to do is later on is we can either open it up one by one where we can raise our hand, or I don't know, we might be able to just open it up, and as long as we don't talk over each other, might be able to just ask the question and have a pretty cool dialogue. So let's just kind of play it by ear, see how it rolls. And all right, Miss Victoria.
Thank you, Dennis.
Now I have to figure out how to mute myself here.
Thank you. Oh, that was such a nice rendition of our friendship. I forgot about a lot of those things that we've done. Oh, so thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate you. And so I just wanted to start off by talking about how Dennis asked me to do this class. And it was just a couple months ago, and he gave me a call to, just kind of popping around ideas saying, what do you think about being in a class and teaching or talking about design and talking about what interests you and what excites you about design. And he said, I've got this idea for CBA to have everybody come together and associate with each other and have it all be around one subject. And I'm thinking about inviting Ellen and Linda and you to each do a little talk about design, especially since our CBA spring conference was canceled and a lot of other life events have been restricted and canceled. And I thought, yeah, that is a great idea. And I think I have a pretty good idea to talk about design because I've been working on this clock project for 9 months now. And I'm like, that's perfect because it's the most challenging design project I've ever been on in my life. I don't know. I came up with this idea before I turned 49 to do something for the year leading up to my 50th, which is October 6th in a couple months. And my idea was, why don't I make something to give away? And then I thought, yeah, I'll make clocks because I want to give them as gifts to appreciate the friends and loved ones for our time together while I've been on this planet for 49 years. And so I came up with the idea to make one clock a week for 50 weeks. A year has 52 weeks, and so I get 2 weeks off. And I haven't taken them off. I haven't taken the 2 weeks off yet. I still have 2 weeks to take off, which I'm kind of excited about. But so I put some stipulations in place for myself for this project because it helps me design-wise to make the box a little bit smaller. So one of the stipulations was I have to use the inventory and the stock that I have. No more buying new stock because I have a tendency to do that. And I also can use any material, not just metal. I have to expand my mind a little bit and maybe add different media or mediums into the metal for it. I can buy, so I do buy the clock mechanisms and that's it. And then the other stipulation was that I needed to give them away as gifts because giving things away makes me happy. And I want to be happy every week leading up to my 50th. So these are a few of the things that I've learned when I design so far, when I design, it's all in my head. At night when I'm falling asleep, sometimes it keeps me up and I can't fall asleep because I get a good design in my head and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to lose that. And then I'll end up sketching it out. on my dog walks. I design a lot on my dog walks, come up with ideas while I'm having my morning coffee. And the last one is my favorite. If I haven't been in my shop in 2 or 3 days, then I go in there, not with the intention of working, but I'll take a little whiskey in there and just smell the smells of my shop and mess around with some of my mistakes or pieces and parts that I have and just come up with ideas that way. Is there a question? No, somebody came in. That's what it was. Okay. Yeah, so that's when I come up with designs. What inspires me to design or for my designs? Since I've been doing these gifts, the actual person inspires me. And it drives the design of what I want it to look like. The space or a space inspires me. So especially if I know the person, and this has happened a couple times, I'll ask the person, if you were going to get a clock from me, where would you put it? Send me a picture of it. Is it going to go on the wall? Is it going to sit on the table? Is it going to go outside? Whatever. So that helps me get inspired for the design. It's a space. The material that I work with helps me design. You know, like if I have I have a couple great metal friends who have like industrial shops, and they keep scraps for me in boxes. And so I collect a lot of weird shapes, odd shapes that are punch outs. And so they will inspire my design, you know, whatever I have on hand. Nature definitely inspires me. I am heavily into texture. So texture of leaves and texture of flowers, texture of bark. That's what I really look for and am drawn to. Oh, Pinterest. I do use Pinterest, but I wanted to show you what I use it for. Like I have a board that's all about textures and patterns. And a lot of these are clay. A lot of them are fabric. Some of them are felt. This gives me a lot of inspiration. And I look at these and just see how they can translate into metal. Or if I can use other material than metal. But I like to stare at texture patterns. It might be kind of weird, but I wanted to share that. And what else is a big inspiration are my tools. Mainly my fly press, but I have a lot of fullers. I have this whole fuller set from Dennis that he made me, and I love that set because it adds a huge texture and dents and divots to things that I want. Plus the fly press. Fly press is huge. Ever since I bought it from Ian Brooks, I have a Norton 6. And I use it a lot for texturing, a lot, because that's the thing about the fly press is that you can work on metal cold. And I kind of like that because it makes the finishing a lot easier. And so here's one, let me see if I can get these to play. Oh, there we go. Here's me working on the fly press, and I'm working on a pocket watch here. And I'm just using a 3/8 inch ball fuller, and I'm texturing the edge because since it is a pocket watch, you know, you touch the edges when you're pulling it out and holding on to it. And I thought that would be kind of a nice thing to have. I don't know what else I could say about that. You'll see the finished product later. And then this is another jig that I made. I guess it's Ian told me about this, to make a 1/2 inch plate with upside down angle iron, inch angle, and weld it. And I usually use this as a bending jig, but here I've made this round piece with a square divot in it to lay square stock on the corner, on the diamond. And as you could see that I was texturing the top corner edge of it. So, you know, it's just a lot of my tools drive my design too. Yeah. Here's my fly press setup. I don't have a name for my fly press yet, and I should. I don't know what to call her. It's a her, by the way.
I'll
yeah,
think of something.
Okay.
Before you go on,
yes.
Do you keep a notepad underneath
yes.
your bed? Okay.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I have it right here. Sketchbook.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I noticed that sometimes I'll get these crazy ideas right when I'm falling asleep, or used to. I have a kid now. And they're gone in the morning.
They're gone.
So.
That's so true. Yeah, when they're in your brain, you got to get them out of your brain and get them onto paper.
Right. So,
and then I've also found out that helps you sleep faster.
Yeah. Did you have a picture of your Pinterest page, or did I miss that?
A picture?
Yeah.
No, it's
I'll just
live.
Look it up.
It's just, this is online live.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I could take one.
No, that's all right. Well, I'll just go to it.
Yeah, I can share it. I can share the board. Yeah. And these are my tools. Some of these tools I've made, some of them I bought. And I made this rack, made the whole stand. Behind, there's this shelf that is a complete mess, but that's what holds my bigger tools. And these are 1.25 inch ID pipe. So it fits the top tools perfectly in there. And you can see I still have some room here to add more for when I make more. So that's my magic space. Right, so the steps I do before I actually create and make the design are I sketch them out, like I showed you on a sketchbook, and this is what it looks like. They're not great. I mean, they're pretty basic. Oops, that's a blank page. Yeah, I mean, they're very basic. You know what else I do is I'll make paper cutouts a lot. And later in the presentation, I'll show you, like, this turned into a mantle clock. And it was out of one 2-foot piece of metal. And I just kind of play around with what I can do after I heat the metal up. This is another one that, here it is. This is another 2-foot piece that I will show you later that is a ginkgo leaf. And so I cut this ginkgo leaf and I was playing around, and then I'm like, oh, I like it better this way, upside down. And then what about this space right here? I don't like that space. So maybe I'll bend this down into those spaces, kind of like that. And then there'll be this space up here for the clock. So I'll show you that. But I do a lot of cutouts, a lot of paper cutouts. Like here's one that might become something too. And they're not always small. Some of them are life-size paper cutouts. That is one easy way for me to get two sides symmetrical too, the same. So I'll fold the paper in half and then cut whatever shape I want so that both sides are the same. I do that a lot. That's an old kindergarten trick, right? I don't know. I do use clay. I'll even use it on the fly press with the textures, just to see what the metal is going to do and where is it going to go and what's it going to look like. And I make a lot of test pieces, and a lot of them are mistakes. A lot of them aren't mistakes. I save them all, and maybe I can fit them into a design later, just in case.
Yeah, you're always growing, always.
Mm-hmm.
So, I got a question here. I'll stop you. What kind of what steel do you make your fly press tooling from?
Tool steel. I knew you were going to ask that. I want to say it's.
There's a lot.
Somebody gave me S7, a whole rod of S7.
Okay.
And some of it might be, is it 1045?
It might be 1045, or I mean, it could be anything on up.
Yeah.
So.
I know that
4140 is a good one.
Yeah, no, I haven't used 4140.
Okay.
S7 is what
so,
I've got.
So that was Beth asking about the tool steel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so so Paul has a really kind of good one here. Is how do the techniques you have under your belt limit your design practice? But more interesting is, when does a new design drive learning a new skill or acquiring a new tool?
Oh, that's the fun part. Is, oh man, I've made at least a dozen of fly first full tools that don't work because I think that it's going to work and I think it's going to do what I want it to do. And then I test it and then I'm like, oh my gosh, that did not work at all. And it's a trasher. So that happens. Yeah. How much, what was the first question? How much
okay, let me
does
go
a design?
Yeah, I'll read it in because it's of course it comes from Paul. It's awesome. How do the techniques you have under your belt limit your design practice? But more interesting is, when does a new design drive learning a new skill or acquiring a new tool?
Yeah. That is more exciting, is learning coming up with a design and learning how to make it and then how to make the tooling for it.
Right.
I've gone through that whole process. And I got to say, I don't know what the percentage is of successful to mistakes that are unsuccessful tools. But my techniques limit my design. I mean, I guess they do. It's kind of like I don't know what I don't know. As far as
it never learns. The imagination is the end of where you can go. So when you're,
I'm sure my techniques limit my design, but then of course so I have gone outside of that box.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Successfully and unsuccessfully. Yeah. But that's the joy of having a shop and being by yourself, too.
Right. Yeah, excellent question. From Beth again, you use lots of discs as starting material, or you said you got a lot of drops from your friends.
Yeah.
Do you cut these from plate or source them somewhere? Well, so earlier, Beth, she said that she was able to get a lot of drops from friends.
Right. So. Yeah, those friends have different size iron workers, and they'll punch out, small discs to big, huge discs that are 1/2 inch thick and 1/4 inch plate. And
wow,
I know. Awesome. And they're so awesome that they save them all in buckets for me.
Right. That was a good question. Sourcing material. That's quite cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I came across one of them because this guy had his own little machine shop next to my gym, and I would see his dumpster, of course, walking into the gym, and I would always peek in the dumpster to see what kind of scraps he had in there, and finally I just started a conversation with him, and he's like, I'll save these for you. So that's how that happened. I don't know. Yeah, that's fun. But some of them I do cut from sheet steel. Yeah. I like 11 gauge a lot, which is what, 1/8 inch. And I like thinner, 20 gauge is about as thin as I'll go. Yeah. All right. Oh, talking about mistakes. So yeah, I learned a lot about mistakes. Haven't we all through life? But during art and during this project, I learned to decide when it is a mistake and when it is not. And every instance is different. Like, do I continue with this and stop thinking that it's a mistake and it can turn into something? Do I push it? Do I just keep at it? Or do I not throw it out, start over? And then if I do start over, do I do the same technique over again? Or do I just scrap it all together and come up with a whole new design? I don't have any of those answers. It's different every time. I tend to push myself and stick with a piece for much, much too long. But it does eventually turn into something. It may not be something that I wanted to use in that project that day or that week. Maybe it's going to be used another month down the line. So that's why I keep all my mistakes too. Yeah, like this was a mistake. This was a little pocket watch, and I didn't like how this came out crooked. When I punched the slot with the slot punch, it was crooked, and it bugs the crap out of me. So this whole thing turned into a mistake, but now it's a test piece because you can see, like, I was testing certain textures here and testing like divots and to see how accurate I could get with it. So a lot of my mistakes turn into test pieces, which are great. So I will say the act of gifting has really unlocked my design ability because the weight of selling isn't there. I don't have to always think about what is the general populace going to buy? What do they like? I'm not even thinking about that anymore. And this is a big one. I was taught this in a class years ago, to be congruent. And the way to be congruent is self, others, and context. So as long as I'm actively thinking about myself, the other person, and the whole context of what's going on between us, that makes me congruent. And let me tell you, it makes the design come alive and be spot on. When I'm not congruent and I'm out of sync with any one of those, it doesn't happen. It doesn't come together. It doesn't look right. I don't know. It's very true, and it just works a lot for me. So I just wanted to mention that. So I do have this pasted up in my shop, and there are the principles of design and the elements of art. I'm going to go through these really quick and talk about like examples of them. It's not like I go into my shop and I say, I'm going to make a proportionate clock today, or I'm going to make an asymmetrical clock today. I don't. I go in with that congruency of self, others, who am I going to make it for, and where's it going to go, and what am I going to make them? That's what I do. But I know that these are hanging out in the back of my mind, subconscious, especially since I haven't pasted up there. And I do have a handout if you guys want. I'll put it in the chat if you want to print this out and put it up in your shops too. I made that, and it's each of those. Anyway, let me continue and keep going through this. Balance is one of them. And there are two types of balance. There's asymmetrical and symmetrical. This is a symmetrical balanced clock that I made for my mom. It has equal weight of equal sides. So she's religious, and she can't go to church anymore. So I thought I could make something, you know, bring the church into her space by making this. And these are little panels that sit up and off of the base panel about a 1/2 inch. And I was thinking about putting lights behind there, but I didn't, because I didn't want to wire. That's an example of symmetrical balance. So asymmetrical balance, I don't think that way. I don't design that way. It just does not come into my brain. Jake James, I think, thinks that way a lot. And a lot of his art and a lot of his pieces come out asymmetrically. Balance is more complex and difficult to envision, the asymmetrical. And it involves placement of objects in a way that will allow objects of varying visual weight to balance one another around a fulcrum point. And I thought this was a really great example of that. Proportion. Proportion refers to the relative size and scale of the various elements in a design. So, you know, I've got all these little tiny discs that are, you know, not proportionate to this large disc. So I wanted to balance. I made all these little tiny discs fooling around, just testing. And I kind of thought, you know, every one of these discs has a different design on it. And then I would bring them over to my table and lay them together into this triangle shape. And then I thought, oh, you know, to make this, you know, a little bit more proportionate is to add another disc with the same hammer marks, the same divots, but put something in between it that's a little less bulky, so a little more wispy. And that's where these bendy things came in to play. And I wanted to talk about the bendy curve technique. And Jesse, I don't know if this was you or not, but somebody on Facebook, I forget, showed one of these on Facebook. And I'm like, oh, I asked him, I'm like, how do you do that? And then I messaged back. I said, don't tell me you want to figure it out myself. So I did. I figured it out after 2 crappy mistakes, and those I didn't keep. I threw them away, or I recycled them. I always used a 1/4 inch rod, and you bend it over on top of itself, and you flatten out the bend. And then you put one end in the vise, and you pull out the other end, and then you get this cool bendy curve thing, right? So it looks like this. Oh, yeah. That was so fun. So I just kept doing that over and over and over. And then I had a whole bunch of those pieces just sitting around, and I fit them into that design. Rhythm and movement is another principle. I love movement because I like making pendulums. So I thought, well, of course I'm going to make a clock that is a pendulum at the same time. That was kind of fun. So this piece is like 4 feet tall. And this is the braided technique, which is, I think it was just 1/8 inch rod, 4 of them, 4 rods that I kind of braided up. Here's another guy, Gottlieb out of Israel. He does great rhythm and movement, but they're not, you know, all movement doesn't have to actually move. It can just suggest movement. I mean, can't you just feel that guy's back cracking on top of that? And these guys, I mean, look at these guys. You just know that their arms are shaking, trying not to move, but they're moving slightly. I just love that. I love his work. Another principle is emphasis, where the place where the eye first lands. Where does your eye first land? Mine lands on this. And that's why I put it there. And so I call this like a riverbed. And then the second place my eye lands are on these little ripples in the steel. And I love that. I just love that subtle, almost movement. So that's just an example of emphasis. Here's another example of emphasis, the created center of interest. This is Becky Little out of Canada. Great example of emphasis on a necklace. I mean, the emphasis is bam, right there. And then you sweeps up around her neck. It's so great. I met her at Can Iron 10 in Nova Scotia. She's a great, great person.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
Yes.
I met her at South Dakota.
Oh.
So, yeah. Well, anyway, I'll shut up.
Yeah. Now we're going to go into, this isn't principles of design. These are elements of art. Line, shape, form, color, value, and texture. So the line is the path of a point moving through space. This is the closest thing I could come to a line. Like there's a bunch of lines in this one, and it's definitely a vertical feeling to this clock that I made. These are also punch outs that I got from my friend, and they're only like 2.5 inches long by 1/4 inch wide, and that's a very modern look. I don't usually go for modern, but I think it came out all right. That went to a friend, Becky's. This is a fridge magnet clock, and I made that for my dad. And the lines here, and even these lines, kind of draw your eye into this center where the clock is, so you can see the time. Another example of line is Roberto Giordani. I mean, look at this. It's pretty obvious that it's a path shooting out and up. And I think this is a gate that he made. I thought that was a really cool example. He's a really nice guy. Wasn't he? He was at a CBA conference. Was it Habana? He made the fish. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, shape and form are two-dimensional or three-dimensional. So this clock has a chrysanthemum, and this chrysanthemum comes out and out of the wall about 6 inches. The whole bulb is 6 inches wide, and it has a 3D effect with the leaves and everything. The actual clock, you can see it kind of has a saddle shape, kind of like a Pringle or a saddle. And I had a lot of fun making that because I made that in a class that I took with Vivian Beer, and it was a hydraulic forging class. And she had these really cool dies that fit together that Pringled out everything that you put in there. And that was really fun to mess around with. And then this is an anchor that I made for my stepsister. She passed away in November, but this is a compass rose because they used to live on a boat, but she would never like to take the boat out into the wide open ocean. Which is kind of funny. Anyway, she wanted me to make her a compass rose, so I did that. And that's kind of the two-dimensional part of this sculpture, which is the clock part. And that hangs on another hanger that hangs a big anchor. And this anchor is probably, I don't know, 14 inches wide. And I made that out of C-channel. That was fun. Another element is color, hue, and it adds value and intensity. And I love color. I love it. I use a lot of color. But, you know, a lot of metal artists, a lot of blacksmiths are not into color. I am not into painted metal. I'm into patinaed metal. So this is done, and I'll talk about the patinas coming up in the next couple slides. But this is done with 2 separate patinas from Sculpt Nouveau. And this is, I did not color this as steel fabric. that I've had in my inventory since 1995, embarrassingly enough, but I love this stuff and I could not throw it away. It's super cool. It's back from my industrial mechanic days where I worked at a wastewater or a water treatment facility. I was there for 13 years, and this was the filter system. And so this is stainless steel microfiber filter material. And then these are little test pieces of copper patina that I did. Here's 3 more clocks that have a lot of color. I love color. This has 3 different stain patinas that come out of a spray can, and also like a brass wax. This has a brass wax as well around the edge. This is just a spray can patina as well, the back part of it. The front part is a piece of wood that I made on a 3D printer called a Glowforge. It's pretty cool. And these are mainly what I use for finish and color. So it's these Bombay India inks, and I will paint them on with paintbrush, or you put them onto a cloth and wipe it on. And sometimes I use that as a base, and then I put these patina stains that are spray cans on top of that. Pat Downing told me at the last CBA conference, where is that? Grass Valley, I think, that he was telling me that if you use patina and then clear guard, many layers, many coats of clear guard, which I get the spray can, and then you put clear wax, this metal wax that Sculpt Nouveau uses, and it lasts for a very long time outside, and it keeps away rust, and it doesn't fade the colors. And that's what, ever since, that's what I've been doing. That's my process. So you can notice these waxes come in different colors. I usually use clear and the black, and there's a brass wax on here too, but you may not be able to see it. Over here for these patina stains, I particularly like the black, the brown for copper, which was that first clock that kind of had a purple hue. That's how that comes out. But it looks different on steel than it does on copper. It's really cool. I love the brown patina and the purple. Yeah, and there's also a brass one and they have a bronze one. I've tried that. It's okay. I have not tried the rust or the copper, but those are all really fun. I have a lot of them. I go through a lot. The next one is value, which refers to lightness and darkness, varying levels of contrast. So with this clock here, I wanted it to be like a compass looking clock. So that when you looked at it, you kind of felt like you needed a compass to find your way. And then I curled one corner of it, and you can't really see, but this curled piece is really bright and buffed out shiny metal. And so it adds a really nice contrast to the rest of this. This is that black patina and black wax. And this little curl, I wanted to like give movement to the clock, and as if it were windy out, because you always need a compass when you're outside, usually, not inside. I don't know. This particular clock, I textured one half of it on a diagonal, and I said, that's just not enough. It's too bright and shiny. So I added patina to it to darken it. And then I wiped off the patina just on the top bumps of it to bring out the shine of the bumps, but still add color. So that this would come out a little bit brighter, the clock, the actual clock hands, you could see better. Yeah, that's that. Here's another couple examples of value. white and dark. This is Beck Simon's bench. And the thought of putting white cushions on this just really was awesome. It just shows that bench. It makes it pop. It's really nice. This is Phillip Vercammen's test piece for Ypres, the Ypres event where it was a commemorative event for the people who are the soldiers that fought in World War II in the town of Ypres. And this was a nice contrast, right? I mean, this guy is filled in and he's black, and then over here he just has the outline of him, which is white and clear, and no in space, open. Oh, texture here. This is my favorite one. And we have Dennis's bottle opener that is, I think, going to be in the coming up bottle opener contest, right? I just love, he does this texture a lot. And I think he learned that from Claudio Quintero. Yeah. And he's definitely nailed it. He's definitely perfected that over the years. It's kind of fun to add texture and leave a spot that doesn't have any. So that's how I came up with that design of, at first for this one, I just textured the corners and the whole thing kind of popped out, and I said, well, I don't want it that big. So I kept texturing and decided to keep one circle where the actual clock was, but have it off center. Yeah, and then, you know, separate them even more by color and patinas. Texture can also be made from different materials, different media. These are reeds that I added to this clock because they're leaves on the back, and I wanted some other media that was part of nature to look like branches and sticks. And I think it kind of ties it together, and more of that texture and leaving an open space without texture. Here's that clock, that mantle clock space. So it's the area in which the art is placed. I have a mantle over a fireplace, so I have a space for a clock, and I want it to be a mantle clock. So also I was talking about, you know, how I wanted, when I was playing around with this cutout, and I went like this, and I said, well, there's these weird spaces here that I don't really like. So maybe if I bend these spaces down, that would work. So that I just kind of played around with that. So this whole thing is made out of 1 2-foot disc, round circle. And then I cut out the ginkgo leaf and bent that down, and then twisted out the bottom, and then added the copper and put the clock hands up on the top. And here's another mantle clock that I showed you. I was kind of messing around with the cutout again, doing that. So that came out pretty nice, very simple. That belongs in a friend's house. Here's another spatial design. I made this because I had a 12-inch by 12-inch square, and I wanted to scrunch it up like I learned as a waitress how to fold cloth napkins, right? And then you can put them out as a fan. So I wanted to fold this up and make it look like a cloth napkin. But this can also fit in a tight space. You know, let's say there's a wall that only has, 8-9 inches, and it would kind of fit right up against a corner or a tight little wall. Yeah, anyway. So a friend of mine, Jesse Savage, said, you gotta make pocket watches. You gotta do it. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. Let's see. this was my first try, and you saw my mistake. This was the first try at it, and then this is the second try at it, and that one turned out a little bit better. Yeah, and all of these are friction fit. So you can pop out the clock faces so that you can change the time, and then it pops back in. Yeah. That was fun. This is a piece of leather. I have some leather working tools that I play around with. So the clock kind of fits inside of that leather piece. This is an old piece of wood from a headboard, from an antique headboard that I've had for a long time. You guys are probably thinking like my place is like Sanford and Sons. Well, it kind of is, because I have shit everywhere. Anyway, I got this piece off of a headboard, and I'm like, that's gotta be part of a pocket watch. I gotta make it fit and design it. And so I had to sand out the inside for this clock face to fit into it, because it was too small. And yeah, let's see. These two, this is my very first clock that I made in the series. And I made that for a friend who lives down in Mexico, and he has an outdoor kitchen, and I knew that he would hang it outdoors. So I made it into a hanging clock and something that you could kind of see through. And this also has a tie to Mexico. Every time I go down to Mexico, I buy these little glass hearts, and I just love them. So I went to Mexico in February, just before COVID, and I bought a couple of these, and this is one of them that I bought in February, and I made it into, just kind of designed it into this clock. So I don't know if you guys know that I was making clothes hangers for a while, and this is one of the clothes hangers that I never finished. And so that kind of became part of the base and the hanger for the heart. And I really like the contrast of using copper and metal, steel together. And I thought that the copper kind of matched this color of the heart. This is at my sister-in-law's place in Buffalo. Here's another one that is congruent because it was self, other, and context. So the context was, yeah, I'm making a clock. I'm going to make it for my neighbor, who's a good friend. And my neighbor, it was born and raised in Denver, and he's Denver everything. He loves the Broncos, the Nuggets, the Rockies, everything. So I'm like, I got to make something about Denver for him. So I made this big D, and within the D, I punched in all these words that are about Denver. So some of them are bars, like the Irish Snug. Colfax is a street. Elways is a restaurant. The Rock Pile is part of the Rockies baseball stadium. KYGO is a local radio station. So yeah, this whole thing is filled with a bunch of words around Denver. He loves it. No, okay. I think it's very large. This one I made for Jesse Savage because another friend of mine saw that I was making clocks, and he's a big cigar smoker. So he says, hey, I got a bunch of cigar boxes I can give you. I think they would be great if you made them into clocks. I'm like, okay, I don't know. So I took one of them because it said Savages on there. And it looks like Jesse a little bit because he has a huge mustache. And I wanted to make it into kind of an old-timey grandfather clock style. And so I did that. And this is the cigar box, and you can pick it up. The lid kind of hinges up, and you can have a little secret space back there. Yeah, and then I just made these goggles and a copper mustache that's hanging from the goggles, so it kind of moves as well. I did a lot of edge work. You can see like this is channel. So I fullered the inside and the edges. This is tubing. I love to work with tubing under the fly press. And that comes out in a lot of my design, our texture on the edges of tubing. So this is on the corner of square tubing. And these are too on the edge. This one came from a necklace design, but the necklace like this, it's a necklace turned upside down. Like this would go around your neck and then that would hang down. But I liked it upside down instead. I liked it this way instead. So this came from, I also have a whole bunch of pieces from King Architectural Metal, and they look like this. This is a lotus leaf, right? So I'm like, how can I make it not look like a lotus leaf? and make it into a poppy maybe. So I cut this triangle out and then use this little teeny tiny fuller tool and fullered them it around. And as you fuller it, it kind of does this to itself. It makes it curl up on itself. And so I made a whole bunch of those. And I don't know if you could see here, I used pennies. I made a divot out of a penny and used a copper rivet in the middle. And that's how I attached them all to a piece of copper on the back. So they're little pennies with copper rivets holding all of these poppies in there. Yeah. Here's a nice one that's, I don't know if you can tell, but there are a bunch of anvils. And I made this from an anvil tool that Dennis gave me. And Dennis doesn't know this yet, but this is his clock. And it's sitting in my shop and I haven't been able to send it. A lot of my clocks I haven't been able to send because I'm saving up money for shipping. I didn't think that through.
I'll pay for the shipping.
Oh, all right, great. Yeah, so I don't know if you noticed, but this is the first time I've used white hands instead of black hands. And I think the contrast is nice and you can see it better. Now this guy is super cool because I made this also in my Vivian Beer hydraulic forging press class. This is a 2x2 square pipe. And it folds up on itself cold underneath the press like that every time. It's beautiful every time. It's great. And then I had the stainless steel ball and I was thinking, well, maybe I should cut a little face out of it in order to put the clock face into it. And I was going to have it fit in there, you know, all nice and snug. Well, I didn't. So I cut it a little bit too large. And then I said, you know, that'll work because now it's a little secret stash spot. So you can put the clock face in there and take it out and hide whatever you want to hide in there and hide it away. It's great. Yeah, so this is, before we talk and have questions, this is another clock that I made for my brother. Another congruent idea of my brother. He's a Marine and he fought in Desert Storm. And so I've made him a flag before already. So I didn't want to do another flag, but I wanted it to be patriotic. So I kind of cut out the United States and I hand hammered the outside of the copper, but kept the inside smooth and thought that would give it a nice contrast and lightness to it. Yeah. So that's that. Let's talk, you guys. Let's have a chat.
So Victoria, thank you
Okay.
for the presentation. I thought that was amazing.
Good.
Dennis, how do you want to do this? You want me to unmute everyone and let people?
What I'd like is Paul has a really good question. And if Paul can just come on and ask the question to Victoria, maybe to start with, since he's been patiently waiting while I try and get my computer going again.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of questions here. They're both kind of designed to sort of kind of put you on the spot. Apologizing in advance, but anyway, a lot of the designs you've shown are sort of 2.5D. That is, the depth direction doesn't have to be like more than textures and overlapping levels, and that's cool because, well, it's sitting on a wall or whatever. As compared, for instance, to a fully developed three-dimensional piece like a piece of furniture where you walk all the way around it. How would your design process change for, say, a piece of furniture? Would you make like clay models or maquettes?
Oh, no, no. So I've made these large wing benches, and they are in public parks. And the way I went about that is to actually use a bench, you know, as just as the physics for the physical measurements. And then I would use paper cutouts, life size, to see how they would all come together. You know, those wing benches that have an 8 wings on the back of it. And so I laid a bench down on the ground on its back and then laid out the paper cutouts to see how that would fit. That's how I did that. But how I've made 8-foot tall women too with these dresses, and I've used, I have a ladies form that I use. It was actually my mother's. It's like a dress form. So that was very helpful. Does that answer your question?
Sure. It's just the way of working.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really hands-on. But I guess I use a lot of paper cutouts first. I have big rolls of paper, big ones.
As a contrast, we've seen like Claudio and the Stenico brothers show up with paper designs which are fully worked out.
Right.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
Beautifully drawn, but also very step by step. I'll forge this, forge that. It'll go together like that.
Right.
Which, you know, how do you even do that?
Yeah, I don't do that. I don't have the drawing skills. I mean, sometimes I sketch out a close-up of a technique or something so that I don't lose it in my brain, but it's never for me to bring into the shop and say, oh yeah, that's how I'm gonna do this and that. You know, it's only just to get it out of my brain and onto a piece of paper. It's never really, I don't know, like process on.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Good question, Paul.
Yeah.
Hey, so just a question, this is Dave. So when you come up with a design, you don't go over and say, okay, I've got to process this portion of it first. You don't have a method to get to this level. You just start forming it and then going, or are you taking step by step? Okay, I'm making this piece first, and then this is going to move into this piece. You know what I'm saying?
It's definitely step by step. I guess I didn't talk about that. I absolutely think about the process of what needs to be made first, and then second, and then third. Absolutely. Yeah. It's never like, oh, it just kind of, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes it is, oh, look at this piece will fit right here. Like, oh, that kind of looks cool. Sometimes I just kind of play around, but most of the time, I think it out in my brain when I'm looking at the sketch in my sketchbook. I'll be like, okay, so I have to make this first, and then I have to make that second, and then I have to attach this to that first before this is put on there and things like that. Yeah.
So I have a question. So along those lines, when you're going through these different pictures, which very inspiring, by the way, thank you. I noticed you use rivets, and those were pretty easy to see, but sometimes it looks like they're just hanging there magically. Like the one in particular, we had all the little discs and then kind of the bendy art in the middle with the clock. How'd you get that all to come together? Like what's
that's called a MIG welder.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, then, that's another freeing part to design for me as a metal artist, is I am not going to limit myself to just blacksmithing techniques of attachment, which means collaring, riveting. That's limiting to me. So I don't want to limit my designs by the techniques. I didn't think rivets would look good in there either. Like as you said, you know, they look like they're floating. Like, how are they even attached? That's perfect. You don't even know. and I'm okay with that, with using a welder a lot, especially if you can't even tell.
So how thick were those discs on that one?
They're very thin. 20 gauge, I think.
So you're just a good welder.
Yeah, I've gotten used to welding really thin. Yeah. That definitely takes practice. Yeah.
So Vic, I'm curious about, the clock thing seems like a completely different design challenge than like a lot of the public art you've done.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, I assume you have to do a presentation drawing, or can you talk a little bit about how those two things are different and what your presentation is like?
Presentation as far as what?
To whoever I mean, there's an application process usually where you have to present a design concept or a sketch or drawings.
Yes, I've done that. I've done my public art submittals both ways, by drawings, hand drawn and computer drawn. And I've also made the whole thing first, taken pictures of it, and then submit that. I've done that too. I've mostly done that. And that's like, I would not suggest anybody to do that, because you don't know if it's going to be accepted. And then you have 17 benches in your backyard. But luckily I've gotten them all designated in parks. So yeah, to be able to do these clocks without that worry, without that weight of having to fit it into their perspective and their RFP or RFQ, and it's way freeing. I love it. I love it. I love being able to make whatever I want to make, and then I give it away.
So I do a lot of the stuff with figuring out everything in paper and cardboard first before I work on things. I've been working on a lot of sheet metal forms.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot of patterning techniques from like foam fabrication and costuming. Is there any other areas where you've learned techniques that you bring into your blacksmithing or your metalsmithing?
Other techniques, as far as like, well, no, because I learn other techniques to add to my metalwork. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I've learned a little bit of leather techniques. I've learned a little bit of not exactly, well, chasing and repoussé for sure, but more embossing with real thin copper and brass. I love that. Any other techniques? I would love to work with foam. That looks super fun.
It's super fun and super easy.
Yeah.
Especially because you can, if you use EVA foam, you can heat it and you can stretch it. And
I've
it will
seen
take
that.
the form. Yeah,
you can heat it with a hairdryer, right?
Heat it with a hairdryer. I recommend heat gun is better than the hairdryer.
Yeah, okay.
I did like a 9-foot tall monster costume once in my dorm.
Oh, yes.
My dorm mates were not excited about the mess I left in the kitchen, but you know, they were fine once they saw the whole thing finished.
I have definitely gone down that rabbit hole of watching a lot of those YouTube videos of forming foam. It's just really fun. Yeah, I haven't practiced that or gotten the courage to do it yet.
But it's interesting because you can use the same techniques for that as you would for like making patterns for metal, or I'm working on some like dragon head sculptures right now, and I just use the same patterning techniques both ways
for like the scales and stuff.
Well, even the so like one of the ones I worked on, I did strips of cardboard. I drew out the picture, the profile of what I wanted.
Okay.
Then cardboard strips to form the height of everything I want. And then I did plastic. And then I drew patterns on the plastic, so that creates a skin, and I can cut that off and I can transfer that straight to steel and cut it out with my plasma cutter and then heat it up and hammer it into shape.
Cool. Nice. I like that.
So you can take these ideas, or you do like 3D print or sculpt something out of clay, cover it in plastic wrap and masking tape, and you can cut that into patterns and do just the exact same thing. So that's what I'm working with right now a little bit.
That sounds fun. Oh, yeah. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, so you can take these, you know, just working with the paper and the cardboard and all that kind of stuff, and just really.
Yep. You're right on to it.
Tom has a question. He's been waiting patiently.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Victoria, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, a lot of years, for many, many years, I've heard a lot of young artists and stuff say that they run out of ideas, or they don't know how to develop ideas. And in the past several years that I've known you, I've been impressed how you pick like an item, like a pendulum or a hair or a hanger or a clock, and then you develop a whole series of that. How did that all come about?
What part?
The part about picking something and saying, okay, run with it and see how to go. I mean, because, you know, a lot of people struggle with, what do they call it? Artist block or whatever.
Yeah.
And they just, you know, they don't develop too much. And a lot of artists will do studies, and they'll do, you know, 4 or 5. But in watching you over the past several years, you'll pick a subject like your hangers, and you'll run 50 different studies, or your clocks, 50 different studies, your benches and your pendulums, you know, you'll run an entire series. How did you get into your, into the aspiration of proceeding in that direction? Or was
I don't know. That's my madness. I don't know. Once I get stuck on an idea, I want to explore it way more and do it different ways. Like, how many different ways can you make a hanger? How fun. That's fun.
It's called mastering.
Mastering, right, not madness.
Mastering or mania?
Mastering madness.
There's a fine line, they say. Okay.
Right. Awesome. Good question.
I've just been impressed with that because I mean, I have too many ideas and I never know where to start. And I've talked with a lot of people who say, well, I don't know how to develop my ideas. And
one great way to start, Tom, is just to get in the shop and do it and start with one, just pick one and be aware of yourself and other and the whole context, right? So the whole story behind of what are you making and why, and can you do it? Then you get in there and you start doing it, and then you'll find out so many answers through the process of just making one or two. Then you'll be like, this is dumb, or, ooh, this is coming out great. I want to explore this more.
Yeah. Awesome.
Could I butt in with maybe a related question? I don't want to interrupt anybody.
No, go ahead.
Cool, thanks. Hey, hi Vic, this is Leonidas.
Yes, Leonidas.
So you've described the principles that you use. You've even posted them in the shop, and these really do come through in the examples that you showed. How would you approach doing a design project with somebody else? Like if you're partnering with a person, whether it's given to you because it's at a CBA conference or because you're just inspired to collaborate with somebody, how do your principles get colored if you're trying to work in a collaborative environment?
That's a great question. Well, I have worked collaboratively on a couple projects, and I love it. And the way I kind of, I use that whole self-other context thing again. And I try and understand each part of it. So if there are 3 people, and we each have an idea, but it has to be made into one thing. Like what's the Ambrose Byrne project of making something out of that 3/4 inch square by 6 inches project, right? Which is fantastic. And I did that with Lisa Geertsen and Stuart Shirley. The 3 of us got together just one afternoon and said, let's come up with an idea and a design out of that 6-inch piece. And we each talked about it. We each said, this is in my skill set. This is what I'm good at making. And then we each made our pieces and came back together, and we made this little tiny gargoyle thing. I don't know. The process is collaboratively. You just talk, and you got to be open, and you got to be true to yourself, and you got to be true to what your skill level is and what your best techniques are, and you bring that to the table, I guess. I don't know if that helped.
No, it's good. Fun. Thank you.
Good answer. Yeah. I think Beth was on.
Beth.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I could unmute myself. So this clock project and some of your previous projects, the hangers and the pendulums and whatnot, how has each of those been reflected, what you learned through those, how has that been reflected in subsequent designs in other types of objects?
Huh. I don't know that they have. I don't know.
The clocks. They're clocks. It's done. It's awesome.
Honestly, I don't know that they have. I don't know if I have progressed in my design.
I don't know if it's progression. Change.
Oh, I change all the time. I change a lot of my. Obviously, I mean, you saw, I'm coming up with some wacky designs every week. It's not like this is a consistent body of work, other than they're all clocks. And that's the funnest part about this whole design project, is that it doesn't have to be consistent. I love that it doesn't have to be consistent. And I can try anything. Yeah.
Good question.
Hey, Victoria.
Hi, Ian. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good. It's good to see you.
You too. Hey, I love your use of copper and the hues you give them. I like playing around with copper. This is more of a technique question. And I've not really used, I use the Stock Nouveau products.
Yeah.
But I've relied more on torch to give different hues and the colors to bring out the natural colors of the copper.
Yep.
Do you use the torch on yours? Because there was one beautiful clock. We had a gradual transition from almost like a sunrise. Are you using heat to get the color?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I do, but I notice that it scratches off easy too. You know?
Yeah.
You notice that? Yeah.
I also, it's really hard for me. I've not got it down. Once in a while, I'll strike lucky and it'll be brilliant. And other times it's just awful.
Oh, I know. It just takes like a millisecond too long and then it's gone.
Right. And I use number one tip on my torch and from a
Yeah.
distance and a low heat.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's not consistent. But
You know what I
seem to-
love to use are those little campfire tiny propane tanks, right? The camping tanks.
Okay, yeah.
With a screw-on hand torch, just a clicker thing.
Right.
And that to me is a lot easier to color and use and not screw up with because it doesn't get that hot. So you do have to hold it there quite a long time, but the more you use it, the more you know how long you have to keep it on there.
Right. Are you using different gauges of copper, or are you pretty much sticking with whatever you can get your hands on, whatever you got lying around kind of thing?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I will use the heat and patina on top of that. And then clear and then
patina,
wax.
are you using the color or the clear guard to keep that?
Both.
You know, if you strike it lucky and, you want to keep it, use the clear guard.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I like the contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like the freedom of doing what you're doing. Using all the different techniques and
thanks.
textures. Yeah.
It is very fun.
It is. It's nice not to be tied down to any one form.
It is. And it's nice not to be tied down to any one idea or someone else's idea.
Right.
And I love using up the stock that I have.
Of course.
I really need to do that more.
And like you say, I'm the same as you as far as, you're trying something out in the press. Doesn't work out. Big car looks cool, but, we've got the big boneyard and stuff. But,
right.
Yeah.
I love it. Your bottle opener came out really nice. The weave, that was a good weave.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Oh, that's the best one yet.
That was a progression from a drawing. I was
very
working on a weave for my motorhome to put a design on it. And I found somewhere on the net how to do that weave. And I thought, that would look really cool if I transferred that to metal.
Yeah.
I played around with it and, I was pleased with that. Yeah, it's a bit of a brain teaser. You have to easy to screw up with the way the way it moves in and out.
For sure. I was trying to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
I know I've watched you do it too, and
No, this is a different one.
Oh, yeah.
I've done the square weaves. This is the diagonal weave.
Yeah.
We're doing this. Yeah. It's a new one. I'll have to teach you sometime.
Yeah, thanks for participating in that, Ian. That's so cool.
Oh,
Joe,
yeah. No.
Joe would be proud. So that's what
No,
it's
he
about.
always complimented me on my weaves, and I just felt like I had to do something like that for him.
Right. Very good.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks.
So Victoria, what are you going to do after you're done with the clocks?
That's such a great question. I don't know. I'm having so much fun. I might just keep going. I don't know.
So if it goes to STIA, is there going to be a clock theme involved?
I don't know.
We'll
That's
see.
part of,
We all go with you.
We'll see if we can even get there, first of all.
That'd be so fun.
Are you
Right.
talking
Wouldn't that
about
be?
this year or next year? I mean,
It's next year.
next.
2021. Okay.
Did you lose count?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, I am planning on going next year. I've already got my plane tickets set up. So
Whoa.
if you need just
All right.
carry stuff, count me in.
All right.
Oh, you're going to be the mule?
The
Is that what you
porter.
mean? The porter?
I mean, I'm getting in shape, so yeah, sure.
That's
Yeah,
good.
wait, you can be our negotiator, Tom. That's where your skill lies.
That I can do.
Yes.
No. I mean, I hope we do go to see it, but I hope all this goes away. This
Me
stuff.
too.
And
Yeah.
so.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question about what your background in design is. Like, how did you get to this place?
Oh, that's a great question, Heather. Yeah, you know, I've taken a few, I would say 3 different online arts classes. And that's where I picked up a lot of those just basic elements of art and principles of design. But other than that, nothing. You know, nothing. I've just always worked with my hands. I've always made things since I was little. Yeah. I've always made things. So I don't know. You know, Peter Parkinson wrote this really good article in that magazine that they give out, the Baba magazine. And it talked about, like, do artists have it? You either have it or you don't have it, or you're born with it or you're not born with it. And he disagreed with that. And I agree with him. His point was, no, you're not born with it. You have a desire to work with your hands. You have a desire to dream up ideas and designs, and you follow through with it, and you work at it, and you make a shit ton of mistakes, and you learn the skills, and you build that, and you build it. You just get better at it. And so I think anybody who has the desire can do it. I don't think that you're born with it.
Maybe in that spirit, since you have your notebook, you sketch your ideas out, and you go into the shop and you just do them. Is there another skill or something that you feel you'd like to develop more that would make you more effective?
Yeah, glass blowing. I would love to learn that. And that's like another lifetime skill. But glass and metal are so cool together.
You're only 49.
Oh, I have a whole nother lifetime.
Yeah, you're very young.
Yes.
By the way, Vic, my birthday is on October 7, so I'll think of you the day before my birthday.
Sweet. Yeah. Nice. I'll think of you the day after.
Love
Happy
it.
Birthday. 2 Libras in the house then.
3.
3, 4. Heather too. Woohoo.
Lots of imbalanced people.
Balance, that's right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm known for that. Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of balance. I think of Heather Mclarty. Yep.
Yeah,
No,
I
it's that balance.
I wasn't going to say anything.
It's that balance between the 12-pound sledge and the entire rest of her body.
Right.
Well put.
We saw lots of balance there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, this was fun, you guys. Thank you for listening to me blabber on. That was really fun. I never get the opportunity to talk like that, so
thanks for doing it. Thanks for
thank you. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got time for one more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that you start a series or something like this and you mine the area out?
I do what? What do you mean?
You start down a path and you're working on things and you say, you know, I've done about all I can do with this idea. Does that ever happen?
Oh yeah, the hangers, for sure.
So what do you do when you get there?
I take a break. You know what drives that is I made a series of 4 8-foot tall ladies, and they would take me 3 months to complete one. And it was just all 4 of them were so large and so long, and I during that time I started to question myself, like, what am I doing? Am I good enough to do this? Do I keep going? You know, it's just such a long time, a period of time. So after those, boy, I took like at least 6 months or 8 months on making little tiny things that I could make in a day or a half day. Kind of like these clocks, some of these clocks come together in a day. Just to validate myself. So that's how I might come up with the next series is like, I need to dial it back and do something in a day that I can prove myself that it doesn't take me forever to make something. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Anybody else? She's easy pickings right now.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see all of this stuff and talk about it in one go. I've enjoyed seeing the dribs and drabs on Facebook, but to look at it more holistically.
Oh, cool.
Really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's neat. Yeah.
So how many more clocks do you have to go?
I'm on my 43rd this week.
Wow.
7.
Yep.
I think sometimes it's not until you come more towards the end of a big group of work like that you start being able to see where the common threads are in it.
Yeah, that's true.
I can see a lot of commonalities going through them, and even though you've said you feel like they're very different, I think
that's cool.
There's also a sort of cohesiveness about it.
That is a great point, Linda, because I think you're right. And I think that helps validate me that I'm not all over the place, that I can make a good body of work.
Well, and you don't necessarily, and it's not linear either, because you'll be referring back to earlier pieces in later pieces. It's not like, one exactly follows on from the next in a nice 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
It just don't work like that. Brains don't work like that.
No.
I really like all your textury stuff. The especially the cigar box guy. The framework that you did around that was luscious.
So fun too.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So fun. The fly press is fun, right, Ian? Yes.
Absolutely.
Most everything I do on the fly press is cold too, which that's another reason.
That's my favorite aspect.
Love it. Yep.
Well, good.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing to watch you like holding the little piece, like, because I don't have one, so it would have to be hot, And gosh, it's gonna burst.
Oh, and it's so precise and meditative when I'm in there, just like that those little tiny discs and the wispy things and the big disc. It took a long time to hammer out that big disc, but I don't know what's long. Maybe 2.5 hours. not all at one time. But boy, when I just get in there and do it, it's so meditative and quiet, and I can hear the music, and I don't need to have earplugs in, and I don't have to have all my stuff on, my gear on. It's great.
Now, I was wondering,
was your arm sore after the 2.5 hours?
Wait, what?
Swinging the fly press over and over again after 2.5 hours. You got into that meditative state, you probably couldn't pick your arm up the next day.
I do. I switch arms. I switch. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but some of those where I have little blocks of steel that I'll pile up so that I can go like this, and then I have to take them out so the arm can be over here and I can use this arm. So I'm constantly switching. Yes, my arms get very tired. I feel them really mainly in my top shoulder a lot, and sometimes in my elbow. But
as long as you're trying to pull rather than push on it, that's a lot easier on your body. Hence, good use of those plates so you can do that, get the tool in the right position. Yeah.
Do you ever, since you work with your the paper and all that, do you ever digitize that so that you can like scan it, so you can enlarge it, shrink it, reproduce it later?
No. No, I just keep all these cutouts in my sketchbook. It's another Sanford and Son trick. Yeah, so my sketchbook has stuff hanging out of it, and it's not exactly totally organized, but yep.
I know how that goes.
Well, any more tidbits for Miss Victoria?
All the brilliant ideas that we think of in the next few weeks, we can hit up at the big round table, right?
Yeah,
actually, you hit it on the head, Beth. I mean, because this is we're just this is virgin territory for us. So, let's just go where the wind takes us. So,
oh, this is great. This is good.
And I mean, of course, we have Linda, who is Linda's next week, who is on the call right now. And then after that is Ellen. And I bet you the round table will be, I think you'll have to have multiple beverages, maybe snacks, things like that. I think it'll be very entertaining. I have been in some of those discussions, and they get pretty funny. So we'll have a good time. So, I guess we can wrap her up a little bit here. I want to put a big thanks out to Miguel and Greg for supporting this. Technically, where are you? Say something.
Hey guys, yeah. Well,
there's Miguel.
Oh, the hat changed again.
There's Miguel, and it's Greg. Is Greg still on, or is he?
Greg's there.
Okay.
He's on mute.
I am here. I'm quiet.
There he is. These guys are making it work. So,
thanks, guys. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, it's great to see all of you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a good team.
Yeah.
So fun.
And I want to thank you guys for doing a thing on design. I think that's maybe our weakest area as far as CBA goes.
Yep.
That's why I picked it.
You're awesome.
Well,
he is awesome.
He is. Yeah.
I was using your tools today too, and thinking the same thing. Oh my God, I love Dennis.
Me too.
I got this. You can't see me. I'm blushing since I have this.
Oh no, we can see it.
You can see it. Awesome.
Even more now.
Yeah. All right. So we are done, right?
I wanted to throw out real quick to the group, between now and the next event, even all the way at the end, if you have questions, write them down, because Victoria said it perfectly. If you get an idea, whatever it might be, jot it down. If it comes up and we can present it to the presenter for an answer, if it's relevant, that would be fantastic. So between now, tomorrow, next week, next 2 weeks, please jot those questions or thoughts down.
I mean, anybody, you can just send them to me, or I don't care. I'll send them to the boys or the group. So.
I was going to say, Dennis, who are you calling the boys?
Thank you.
No. You're not the boys. Miguel,
I see what
and
you
Greg
did.
are the boys. You girls are the gals.
What he meant to say were the bosses.
Well, I presumed he was talking about the people that would answer the questions.
Oh, well, you'll answer them eventually, yeah.
No, we'll log them. We'll log them for you, Linda, and then we'll get them to you. So
yeah,
I'm here to support you. Let's just get it clear.
I think just on the fly is fine too, as they come up in the session is totally fine.
So let me throw a question to you, Linda and Victoria. How do you think this went?
Well, I was really impressed with Victoria's slides and slideshow, and I'm like, oh shit, I better pull something a bit, slick together, instead of just going, oh, I'm trying to find a drawing in my folder to show you. Oh, hang on, I'm clicking folders. Okay, so, all right, get your act together, Linda.
I mean, I like it because here I'm with all my friends from California and beyond, and that's kind of what I'm missing a lot of. And I mean, I love hanging out with my friends. So this is a great. I don't know, it's good for me to interact and see everybody. So
I loved it. I was so comfortable with you guys. I love everybody in this class, and it was very fun.
So, I mean, CBA has a reputation of supporting its demonstrators above and beyond. So here is no different. So.
And I'm actually spying because I'm going to be taking stuff back to Abana to expand their curricula.
Yeah, I already knew that.
Okay.
We got that email last week.
We were on to you, Tom.
Yeah.
So Tom, we've had a few Abana folks on these with us too, so they could learn how to do these sessions.
I'm transparent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what we have to do right now.
I mean, everybody needs to work as a team.
Yeah.
From affiliates to the national program. The whole focus is blacksmithing art, and sidestepping all of the other issues of the day. We need to stay focused on the expansion and creativity that we as blacksmith artists need to promote between ourselves. I mean, it's all about continuing the process. And I mean, the national board and the CBA, I've been with both for a lot of years, and it's about doing what the members want, and sharing, between us. So anyways, I'll shut up now.
So Carol, did you have an announcement you wanted to make regarding the happy hour?
Sure. The Roaring Camp, of course, is not happening, sadly, this year. And so we are going to have a Zoom on the 15th at 6 p.m. There'll be a sign up somewhere. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll be on the web page.
On the web page. Okay. And probably a link from Facebook, but not everybody's Facebook. So
yeah.
Might be word of mouth from you guys to other people who don't have access to the website. I mean, somebody has to have a computer somewhere, but not everybody's a Facebook fan. So I think it's going to be 40 to 50 people max. So it's going to be fun. Just think how much fun we have at Roaring Camp, and we'll just transfer as much of that to our screens. So the 15th, 6 o'clock, and it's a freebie as far as I know.
Just for CBA members. That's
just
right.
for CBA members, right.
I call that a brave new world.
Drinking online.
Yeah.
So quick information. Victoria just put in the chat session to everybody the link to her Pinterest. She was talking about earlier of the textures that she had used. So if you can, check that out. And I'm thinking she wants subscribers and likes.
No, I could care less.
Hey, what about the PDF or whatever of the
Beth, I am working on that.
Okay, just a second. No rush, no rush.
I'm challenged at the moment. I do that.
What did I just do?
Well, I mean,
this thing doesn't seem to be happening.
I have Beth's email.
Just a second, I'm getting there. I'm getting closer.
I took notes, Dennis.
Okay.
You know.
One of them said light and the other one said texture. That's all I got.
I got some stuff.
Wow, nice.
Hey, that's how I think and process is you write it down, it goes through your brain more times.
Absolutely agree with that. I typed it out and took screenshots, so.
Ooh.
Oh man, I'm just gonna watch the video again.
That's so passive as a learning technique.
Not if you watch it for 5 hours straight.
That's just twisted.
It was Dennis's suggestion for me.
Yeah. I was just
I can
ask
be
Beth for notes.
Well,
oh man, I can't find it. I can't figure it out.
We'll look for it next time.
One more thing, another little off subject. Heather mentioned maybe at some point we could do a gallery by Zoom or on the, I don't know. But it'd be nice to see people's things that they're doing while we're all locked down.
Possibly like a walkthrough of their forge and maybe pieces they have in work.
Wow, that would be fun to see everybody's work area.
That would.
Or
No
even
pressure.
We'd have to clean up then.
Clean up? No
That's
way.
a great idea.
Even just a slideshow of pieces, but with all the folks who've submitted actually participating so they can talk about their piece and answer questions about it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Simple. Yeah.
Did that work? Hey, I think I did it. Can you guys see it in the chat?
In the chat.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
You gotta make it go to everyone.
Oh, I only sent it to Jesse. I don't know why that was, but Jesse, well, could you share that?
Jesse's the favorite.
He won't even show his face.
Oh my gosh! Right? Oh dear. Let's see if I can do that again.
Oh, Mig, you left the forge.
I left the forge. I had to leave Vista. Yeah. So just in case people are wondering, we'll be working with the artists and demonstrators to figure out what they're comfortable with as far as what we can do with these recordings, whether or not we'll be able to share the entire the recording with the members, if it be allowed to go to non-members as well too, or if we will just be allowed to take snippets and make, sort of short teasers or something to that effect. And so we're going to be, very sensitive to what the artists and demonstrators want us to do. And again, it's our artists and demonstrators come first. And so we're going to make sure that we take care of them and we don't overstep our bounds. And so we'll get back to you as far as, what we will be able to do with these recordings.
Awesome. Good one.
Thanks, Miguel.
Hey.
Well said, Miguel. Thank you. All right. Well, I think we have run you into the ground.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Victoria. That was very inspiring.
That was fun.
Yeah,
Very
it was
fun.
really
Great.
good.
Thanks for
Thank you,
letting
Victoria.
me be involved.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah, I enjoyed
it.
All right,
Good
Mig and
job.
Dave, I'll see you on Saturday.
Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Nice.
All right.
Guys, later.
Cool, guys. Take care.
Everybody.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.